All right. Well, welcome again, everybody, to our monthly masterclass. Today, we have a really special guest. I'm sorry, but I'm looking for your bio. Here we go. Platinum Networking, designing a unique experience for others in a world of disconnection with John Jaramillo. John was one of my co-authors in our new book. This is how we got invited. Um, the Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Successful Soul Professional. And he wrote about platinum networking, and I loved it so much. I called him up and it was like, hey, will you do a masterclass on this? Because I felt like the world is changing right now and we're forgetting about building relationships, which I think is the most important part of building your business, is building your relationships, not just your network, because a lot of people know a lot of people, but unless you have a genuine relationship, it doesn't really work. So John is going to talk about building these relationships, and he is the founder and leadership performance coach and consultant at Coach It Out LLC. In that capacity, he helps clients throughout the organizational hierarchy break through to their next level of leadership performance and effectiveness. Clients realize just how much more of their abilities, experiences, and goals they can bring to the table. John's professional experience in the public and is in the public and private profit and nonprofit sectors allows him to transfer lessons across business industries, organizational structures, and leadership needs while working with anyone from students to seasoned executives. In addition to coaching, he enjoys writing and presenting and speaking on leadership. His signature talks includes Design Your Leadership, 9 Ways to Sharpen Your Leadership Brand in at the Everyday, the Platinum Networking, designing a unique experience for others in a world of disconnection, that he's doing for us today. And he also hosts 2 podcasts, The Book Leads, Impactful Books for Life and Leadership, and Mindset Talks, Life Beyond the Checkboxes. Thank you, John, for being with us today. And I'm going to give it all for you to take over.
Awesome. Let me see if I can share my screen. Uh,
There you go.
Let me see if that comes up. Okay.
Yep, it does. We see the whole thing right now.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody, for having me. Camille, for the introduction, for the invitation, both to contribute to the book and to give this talk today. Again, my name is John Jaramillo. I'm not going to go through the whole rehashing of the bio, and I think you've heard the title of the presentation and the chapter a few times, but there it is, Platinum Networking. Um, this is a very interesting conversation to have just because most of my evolution, I've talked about it in my podcast, and I'll reference the podcast not so much as a plug. Here's my plug. I have a podcast. Camille mentioned it, but only because through that process, so many conversations I've had, maybe 70 up until now, is where I've done most of the evolution in myself, in my life, in my career, in my work, just from having these conversations. So just so you know a little bit about me and my background is a mishmash, disorganized series of degrees across different fields, but it all contributes to who I am today. And I do this only because even in my podcast, I like to ask people what their story is before we listen to them. I feel it's important to kind of know where someone's coming from before they share their insights and experience with you. Most of my work now is speaking and writing, and then everything else, collaborations, the podcast, social media. I'm active on LinkedIn, and I also have a newsletter. Please reach out and connect whenever you get a chance. For me, coaching is interesting because as a leadership coach, so many people have said to me, I just want to know what to say in order to lead these people. That's not the way I work. I'm assuming most of you and just your self-assessment and development know that it starts with yourself. So for me, just so you know, leadership for me is about the self-work. And then the actual leadership that people see is the expression of that work, the example that we set to others. So that's where I'm coming from. All of this is self-work that I think we all can do, not need to do because everybody has different needs. I don't like going cookie cutter and assuming that everybody has to work in the same fashion. And then yeah, I'm here, soul aligned, part of this great book. And the only note that I'll make without repeating all this information again is that this presentation existed before the book. There's 10 pillars I'm going to go through in this presentation. The book the topic in the book, what I came up with the book was for the book. I didn't know any of it. I thought about where this came from. So in my chapter, I explain where this comes from. It explains that from working with my immigrant parents is where I gained these lessons. So it gives some stories working with my immigrant parents, the lessons that I use for now, and then the presentation builds off of that to go through those 10 pillars that I associate with platinum networking. So first of all, what is networking? So we think of networking, and the way that I came up with platinum networking was the golden rule. So we start with that, where it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's kind of very narrow. It paints this picture of me to you, you know, what do I want to give to you so that you can give to me? It kind of keeps it it's a very much a tunnel vision approach. Whereas with platinum networking, and again, this stems out of the pandemic because we were all isolated to our pods or our families, whatever it may be, but so many people were felt lost, felt disconnection. You were hearing more about mental health. And I think because of that, people were telling their stories more. We were pushed up against the wall. We had no choice, and people came out more with how they were struggling. So I realized that people were telling their stories more, and I realized that we weren't really asking for each other's stories, sharing our own stories. So that's where this comes from. That's where this originates. So the platinum rule, do unto others as they would have you do unto them. It's about the other person. It's about what they want, what they expect, what they need. It's about building an ecosystem. You're going to hear that word a lot through this presentation. Ecosystem of drive, trust, values, support, motivation. It's designing who you want around you and expanding that. And again, it just goes that you have to build into it. So you do start with the golden rule, but then you have to work to the platinum rule where you figure out what the other person needs, even anticipating what they may need. Let me just minimize this. Um, so then what is platinum networking? So again, it begins with the other. You build it through familiarity and openness. It's understanding the needs and the abilities of others. And it's really becoming an agent and a sponsor for your network. So, and I'll just give examples from my own experience. I don't know any of you at all right now. But for me, I like to spotlight people in my network. I like to spotlight the work that they're doing. I think back to when I complained about the state that I live in, Connecticut, where I was one of those people that said it was a rest stop between New York and Boston. But at a certain point, I don't know if you mature, but you realize that you have a stake in building and designing what it is you want. So it is about designing, expanding, and amplifying that ecosystem that we have. It's an experience. And in putting together this presentation, a few quotes came to mind, and I didn't realize that the same person said both of them. But the first one that I want you to think of is Maya Angelou's, I learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That plays into this. That plays into building an experience and how you make someone feel about their work and what you can do for them. And I forgot to mention, please don't hesitate to jump in. I'm more about the conversation instead of the one-eyed talking to a lens up here. If you have any questions as we go, please speak them out. If not, if you want to put them in the chat, if Camille can just monitor the chat and just let me know if anything comes up. Interrupt whenever. I prefer that kind of back and forth anyway. So what I'm hoping that you'll gain from this conversation today is a new lens through which to see your network. It'd be great if you turned away from your computer after this and, okay, I have the same network that I had yesterday, but I view it in a different lens. I view a different capacity that I can provide for that community, a better understanding of yourself. The more differently you look at your network, what people need, what they're looking for, you realize what you can provide. Yes, I could sit here and do an inventory of everything I think I can provide others. But when you learn what other people need, they can put it in such a way, express it to you that you're like, okay, I can do that. I never thought about it. But if you keep your ear to the ground, you'd be surprised what you can learn from other people about them as well as yourself. I hope you'll gain a reinforced elevator pitch. That's more salesy. But what I mean by that is how you convey what it is you do. But I want you to amplify that with your story, sharing that, understanding your story, appreciating it. I think that authenticity, that energy behind that story that's the really the connective tissue. Our services are great, products are great. We get that. But there's something about the story, the authenticity there. That's the connective tissue. That's where the energy lies. So now we can jump into the 10 items, and they're going to be just very brief. And again, if you have any examples, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to jump in. And again, all of this, the way I present this today could evolve tomorrow or the next week, the next month, and look very differently just based on my experiences. So none of this is cookie cutter. It all keeps evolving. So the first post, the first item is serve others, as opposed to that old school of networking where it was kind of what can I bring back to me? You're here for your business or entrepreneurial endeavors. I'm here for the same reason. First and foremost, that's why we're here. But we're about carrying it out in such a way that makes us a part of this group. What I mean to say is we're all on LinkedIn for a reason. We're all on these kind of presentations for a reason to bring attention back to ourselves, the work, the value, the business. How we go about it is very important. So we're not just doing it to bring back to ourselves, but we're doing it to serve others in our community. So customer service, again, that experience is everything. As we go through these, I want you to think about how it is you treat your network. What do you share with your network? That it's not just about getting to the business that they can bring back to you, but how do you share those connections? How do you treat those connections? And you'll see that it does amplify. It's one of those things where what goes around comes around. What you put out there comes back to you. Meet people where they are. That's the biggest thing. And an example I have of this is a guest that I had on the podcast, Connor Delaney, in episode 12. He's a director of membership at Impact, a sales and marketing training company. And he covered a book, They Ask You Answer. In short, the book is about anticipating what a customer needs because there are various levels of customer service. Think about your own customer service experience, you as a customer. You go to a store, you have a question. One scenario, the person's like, I don't know, walks away. Another person says, I don't know, but I can find somebody that can help you. Third person says, here's your answer, here's your response, have a great day. Fourth person says, here's your response, here's the answer, here's the information you need, but did you also consider that? So that's that anticipation. That's what cranks it up just even just 1% above regular service back and forth, anticipating what that person or that group may need. So that's important. The next one is just the power of conversations. So instead of just exchanging information, instead of it just being about me telling you about me, what is that flow state? What is that flow state of information back and forth? How do you go deeper beyond that facade? How are you getting to who that person really is? How are you finding out what they're all about? Instead of just learning about their business, do you know what drives them? If you think about your network now, do you know what's behind them? What drives them? The people behind them, how they got to where they are, what they're looking for, asking about them, not just leaving it at the business level. And in my series, although it's scripted, um, there's just so many follow-up questions that come up. And conversations are important because of the pandemic. Again, that humanness, that humanity, storytelling. There are common questions that I ask in the podcast, but at the same time, as I'm listening, I'm asking them to, okay, what was that? And I'm notorious for going down rabbit holes. So the standard scripted question is 6 or 7 questions, but I'm always listening to little things that they say and asking about those things because I'm curious, what is it that built the person that's in front of me? So how do you go about doing that? I'm curious, what are the steps that you take to really get to know who's in front of you? How are you understanding that person you're talking to? Again, it's a learning moment. Again, it's a sharing moment. I think it's important for us to do both of those, listen and share. Feels like a ratio of talking to listening, which we'll get to in a second. And there's no way to measure it specifically, accurately down to the whatever the measurement is. But how are you balancing going back and forth, understanding each other and sharing of yourself? The next big thing is your evolution. Instead of not thinking you don't have a story, instead of simply depending on the business you have and that being it, I think people want to know who they're dealing with. I think people want to know what someone's story is. I think we've learned that the story is just as important as what they put on the front end. So, do you know yourself? How well do you know yourself? How have you evolved? How do you practice that accountability of noting where you've come from and where you want to go? So again, what's your story? Everyone has one. It's amazing how I can present this conversation, this talk to students as well as seasoned professionals. And the students don't believe that they have anything to offer because they haven't had a job, a professional job, right? They haven't had a career. Everybody has some kind of story. The power is not so much the story itself, but your understanding of it, your curiosity of that story and how you got to where you are today. So I can only speak to myself here in this group, but I think about, again, how I've evolved during the pandemic from pre pandemic to now, especially because of the series. But I'm a completely different person now. My understanding of that gives me the confidence because I always say I'm an introvert. I admit that freely. People call bullshit because I love talking, I love being on the podcast, but it's because of that evolution. It's because of my newfound appreciation, because of that silver lining of the pandemic, that I realize how important it is to learn about each other, to share about ourselves. In this moment, yes, I'm sharing about myself. I have the microphone, but I'd be just as curious about each of you if I had that time to sit down with you. So, what is that story? What is your evolution? And it doesn't matter what age you are, whether you're in school, middle school, high school, up to seasoned professional. What are those seasons of your life? What do those things look like? Because the language of your business is going to change. The narrative is going to change. The business may stay the same, but the way that you view it, based on the season that you're in, the experiences you've had, can evolve. Your energy can evolve, even if that business stays the same and there's nothing really substantially different throughout that whole time. The way that you recognize your evolution changes the energy you put behind it. So recognize your evolution, recognize you have a story. It's not just your business, there's more to it than that. And again, network, it's your tribe, your group versus settling. That's the old school. Um, and a great example I give of that is just staying comfortable. We hear that all the time. Step out outside of your comfort zone. But a deeper example of that is remaining in a group that supports you, which should be there, is important. But there's a difference between remaining with a group that supports you, like your family and your friends and some coworkers, colleagues, connections that support you, versus finding a group that's going to help you evolve, motivate you, inspire you as much as you want to. And you may not know how much you want to until you get out there and experiment. So this is all about that effective alchemy. What is it? How do you find those people that help you shine, that you help each other shine? Um, I've this word has come up so many times in my conversations with people, but that brilliance, they bring that brilliance out of you. I've seen examples of that in my series where the energy in one conversation may be different from another, and it just shows you the variety of people that are out there. So, how are you out there seeking the people that are going to bring the best brilliance and the best energy out of you? Just because you may be a hotel owner or a car wash owner and you're in a network of those people, doesn't mean those are the best people for you. How do those people within that group bring up your energy, fire you up to continue doing great work? It's not yes people. It's not people that are just agreeable to you, but how are you finding these groups proactively that are bringing the best out of you, that are helping you bring the best out of you? And at the same time, you have to guard your energy. Again, I come back to that. I'm not an energy expert at all, but I've just appreciated it anecdotally. Being around the right people, again, that higher vibration that this movement is all about, and being around people that have that lower vibration. How are you monitoring that to make sure that you're finding people that suit your needs, that suit what you want? And again, you have to explore and you have to discover what it is you want. But it's about being proactive, making sure that you're finding the people that are right for you. I can't dictate at all what it is you need, but I would want you to have that curiosity about finding them. The next one is getting help, again, versus being too proud. Pandemic showed us that. I had my own troubles or experiences, not troubles, because they showed me strengths that I had, but I had my own experiences with mental health during the pandemic. And although that's personally related, it plays out because it's a form of driving you to ask for help if you need it, being honest with yourself, being vulnerable. It's that power. I don't think we see vulnerability as weakness anymore. To me, it really is strength because it is letting down your guard, not knowing what's going to happen. to find a better result for yourself, whatever it may be, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whatever it may be. And getting help, reaching out there allows you to get better by knowing others. And sometimes having those honest conversations is the only time that you really see how you align. And it doesn't have to be honesty about mental health, but dropping your guard down a little. And again, in my series, it's not what I anticipated, but I've seen so many people sharing so much more about themselves than I had anticipated, which led me to share about myself. So are you having those conversations where you can fully be yourself? Because when you're in those conversations, I'm assuming most of you have already felt this in your lives and careers, right? If you've worked long enough, you kind of feel that when you can be fully yourself, you can bring that better energy to the work you're doing. You feel more open, you feel more free. And I was going to say, you can breathe better. I was just talking to a colleague last week about, not even a colleague, one of my best friends. Um, where when you get to a certain age and you're comfortable with yourself and you know what you stand for, you don't have to put up the facade anymore, you can breathe. It's something about relaxation, it's freedom to really be yourself. And when you're free and when you feel like that free, that's when you do your best work. But if you're tense, if you're tentative, if you're holding your cards to your chest because you don't allow that vulnerability to come through, that's when you trip up. So I don't know if most of you have had this experience, not had the experience, but there's something about letting your guard down and letting some people in or others in, excuse me. Be a connector. It's like Camille, it's like what I try to be, where we're not just keeping our network to ourselves, but we're making connections. We're keeping in mind that this game isn't just tunnel vision from me to you, but that when I'm talking to somebody about the work that they're doing, I'm keeping in mind, I'm hearing trigger words in what they're saying that remind me of people that I've met in other areas so that I can step back really and take into account this network, this vast network across business, maybe personal life, different industries where people can help and impact each other. So it's this hub. You're the center. Who is it that you're connecting? I've had great examples, great experiences of this. And again, pre-pandemic, I recognize my evolution. I was never as open as I am now. Um, Again, it took that a bit of turmoil during the pandemic to really open me up to realize what's out there. And I have an example where if in one of my co-authors in the book, Camille's book, Heidi Mitro, the publisher of the book, Laura DeFranco, held a podcast where she was interviewing groups of the authors in the book to kind of get out there and promote the book. One particular time slot, Heidi and I were the only ones that showed up. We got to talking. Laura was asking us questions, and Heidi and I were just kind of building off of each other's responses. Really, the energy was just great. At the end of the conversation, she shared that she just said, "Listen, I think you should meet my partner, Mike." I didn't know why. She just said, "I think you guys would hit it off." Mike and I connected through Heidi. We had a talk. We're in the similar leadership field, but there was nothing that we connected on in terms of work. There was no collaboration that we came up with in that moment. At the end, literally, we said to each other, I said to him, listen, well, I don't know where we go from here, but it's been great meeting you, and we'll touch base in the next couple of weeks. I got to know him during that conversation. There was great energy. I know what he's all about. He knows what I'm all about. She was right. There is something there. Again, energy. It all comes down to energy, the right kind of people. Although we didn't have anything specific, that energy to me is more important, and maybe to you as well. That energy for life, for making a difference, for lighting the world on fire, whatever it may be, to me is more important than just making a business connection. The business is important, but I realized that proper amount of energy with that right connection sustains that drive for the business. So I implore you to keep that in mind. What are the connections you make for others, others have made for you, and what kind of energy have you felt in that? The next one is thought leadership. So everybody has a unique voice. Instead of just regurgitating all the same information, I'm not going to lie, full disclosure, I've kind of gotten disenchanted with my own field just because I look at LinkedIn, it's like we're all posting the same thing. So I've stepped back from sharing the typical stuff. I want to come up with my own nuanced language. And I think I do have my own writing voice, my own writing style, but there was just something about, okay, we're all sounding alike. How is it that you sound different? What is the nuanced language? What is the nuanced tone that you hold for your experience, for your field, for your industry? How is it that you can convey that, the nuance of your unique story in a nuanced way that is it's it's exclusive to you because no one, I've talked to so many people. What's amazing is you can talk to people that are in the same title. I've talked to people that cover the same book in a few episodes of my series, and no one looks at it the same way. No one comes at it the same way. No one speaks it in the same way or uses the same tone. So, what is your thought leadership? How do you put that out into your network? What is your unique voice? If you're dishwasher salesperson or car salesperson or a leadership coach or whatever it may be, whatever title, how do you stand out in a nuanced way? What are the particular things people are going to remember about you that's unique from just the typical script that they may expect from your industry and profession? Keep that in mind. The next one, be curious, read, listen, attend master classes, get out there. If you're here for this particular masterclass or you've attended this masterclass in the last Thursday of each month, you already have that curiosity to learn from the environment around you, from the people around you. I love that Camille and her company curate these great conversations, curate these great speakers. Not talking about me, but the other ones, um, because I think we forget. I think general traditional networking was about what can I get from me in terms of business, right? But now this is your master class. Aside from this particular master class, your network is your master class. It is your continuing education to keep going. I think that's the main reason I started the series was because I wanted to keep learning and I'd already gone to school and paid all this money. But the best learning that I've ever had, again, is from my parents, the example that they set, but also this network, all of you out there doing different things. Even if everybody on this call did the same thing, I could still learn something unique from each of you because I'd be curious enough to ask you. So it wouldn't just be a conversation of, hey, do you need a leadership coach? Hey, do you need a leadership coach? It really would be learning about what it is you do, what it is you learn and need. And if nothing came out of it, I've learned. I think that's an important part of networking that even if you can't make a connection, a business connection with somebody, there's something that A, you've learned from that conversation. B, they have a network behind them. So it's, you want to be courteous, you want to be respectful because you never know who is behind that person in terms of connection. I've had an experience, I don't know if maybe you have too in networking, old school networking event. Everybody, yes, is handing out business cards. One guy came up to my group of three of us, three or four of us, and said, "Oh, here's my business card. What do each of you do?" And he was smiling when he did it. And then as soon as we told him what he did, his face just dropped and he walked away. Like he said, "Thank you. Have a great night." Walked away. He was like a split second away from taking back those business cards. So never doubt that there is some kind of value to that person, whether it is that person in front of you or whether it is the vast network that they have behind them. With the series, I've been lucky enough where a lot of people have trusted me, where even if they didn't come on because they didn't have a book that stood out for them, I've gotten so many referrals from people that weren't on my series. And I'm lucky. Um, I'm lucky because I was able to convey the importance that my series has to me, the knowledge that I want to gain. So again, curate what it is you want, again, that talking to listening ratio. And I think the talking to listening ratio is like 43% talking, 57% listening. I can't confirm that. It's just something that I've seen out there. Even if you can't measure it specifically down to that percentage, how is it you're balancing it back and forth so that you take in information for yourself? The next one, integrity. Do you keep a high enough standard in your ecosystem? So, the power of integrity versus a human minefield where people are just haphazard, irresponsible, clumsy, arrogant. They're making connections, but not really following up, not being authentic in what they want. They're just collecting business cards, making promises they can't keep. How is it that we can introduce and maintain a sense of character, integrity, honor into our network so that we respect others? Here's the other Maya Angelou quote that I wanted to include here as I was coming up with this presentation, it came to me, never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. And I have an example where somebody's reached out to be on the series 4 times already, 4 times in maybe a year, year and a half. And they keep saying, I want to be on your series. And I say, great. I know their work. They're on LinkedIn. Their message is amazing. They're always posting and posting quotes, and everything is good. And this is how we lead, and yada, yada, yada. But then when it came down to it, I started feeling more like an option. I don't have to be a priority at all. But when you kind of make somebody feel like they're expendable, like if things play out or not, it doesn't matter. At a certain point, that's when it's got to stop. So how do we keep respect, courteous behavior in mind when we work with other people, and not just making someone feel like a a statistic of business or connection or anything like that? To me, it's a bit sloppy. If the person comes back again, I would just have to say, in all honesty, we've talked countless times. I just don't feel right. Listen, I don't know what the words are going to be, but for me, you really have to demonstrate some kind of character, integrity in the way that you operate. And I hope to be that for other people. So just make sure that you recognize the standard you want, do not compromise, and give that standard to others as well. Then the last one is enjoy yourself. I think we've met a lot of people that it's work, it's business, and they make it feel like such. But how is it that you're enjoying yourself? I mentioned fun, but everybody has a definition of fun. What is it that you want to feel as you're executing your work, as you're carrying out your work, as you're meeting others? Again, I go back to that sensation. What is it you feel? Whether it's passion, purpose, everybody's always arguing about, no, it's not passion. No, it's not purpose. It's this. I don't go by the script. Whatever unique sensation you feel when you're working and it gives you a bit of a high or puts you in that flow state, are you doing it? Are you feeling that from the work that you're doing? So keep that in mind, because obviously I'm assuming you all must know how that resonates when somebody demonstrates that they're enjoying what they're doing. I've been very vocal or animated with my hands because I get pumped up from this. Again, self admitted introvert, but when I'm presenting on this kind of stuff, it just, I love working with people, meeting people, exchanging ideas, asking questions. It fires me up. Every time I stand up from a podcast, I collapse though, because I have limited energy. I am an introvert. I probably will after this. But in the meantime, until that point that I'm on the floor, I'm enjoying myself because I get to share about myself. And hopefully in the interaction, when you may have questions, I get to that point where we can have that conversation. So again, here are the takeaways. It's all about service. It's all about back and forth conversations, not just exchanging of information. I've never been good at small talk. I'm very bad at just kind of regurgitating my day. This is how it went. I'm deep in conversation. I like to dive deep and ask a lot of questions. Your evolution, keep that in mind. How have you changed? Because even though your business has stayed the same, your evolution, the energy, how you've changed, changes the way that your business operates if you let it. Your tribe, who is it that you can seek out? Have you gotten to that point where you feel that brilliance that you can build together? Are you looking for it? Some people aren't. Do you know to look for it? Do you know that it may be out there? Keep that in mind. Get help, whether it's for whatever reason, but be open. Put yourself out there if you can. I think you'll always be in the right hands with the right people. I've told students as they were networking or trying to network, how do I go about learning about my field? And I said, reach out to somebody on LinkedIn. If you're in the same circles, you know what they're doing, the work that they're doing, what they're executing, their tone, their insights. Reach out and just say, hey, I've noticed you. You have a title that I'm thinking of taking on or going into or learning about. Do you mind if we can have a virtual coffee? You'd be surprised who's out there. I don't think I've found the right kind of energy bouncing back and forth in a professional manner until maybe this past year. And I'm 44 years old. I thought in the past that if we were getting a job done, that was good enough. But there's something about finding your tribe and getting that right kind of help. Be a connector. Again, step back, look at your network as a whole. even when you're having a conversation one-on-one with somebody, you'll get in that mindset where certain words will trigger, oh, I should talk to this person or I could connect these two people. It'll happen. At first, you kind of have to dig for it, but after a while, it does happen naturally. Thought leadership, what are you all about? That's what I want to know. Your field, what do you think? Where's it going? How can you make a difference? Be curious. Again, your network is your continuing education, it's your master class, it's a collection of great minds if you look for the right ones. Integrity, remember your character and enjoy yourself, have fun. And then these are the projects, my projects, the two podcasts Camille had mentioned, book that Camille had invited me to contribute to, and then one other one, the 10 Secrets to Success After Graduation. Mine is chapter 4 with a co-author focusing on building relationships. So I take this very seriously. That first book, the one on the bottom, was for students graduating. So I know that that importance of that skill starts very early. But that Camille's book really helped me elevate my understanding of where that came from and why I do it. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to shoot some questions back and forth, jump into some conversation, whatever it may be.
John, that was excellent. Thank you.
I hope so.
I loved how you said, well, a couple of things. I wrote some notes just to comment. And anyone, if you have questions, feel free to jump in or write your question in the chat. We're happy to see it. But one of the things you said is the exclusive language, which I think is so important when you're describing your services. I can't even show it. This, I don't know if you can see it. It's written all over because I keep changing language and words to see what resonates when I
Yeah,
say it. And someone said to
yeah.
me the other day, the best thing, they said, if you don't have to write it down, that's who you are, because it'll just flow so easily. Like once you get the words right. So I just keep playing with
Yeah,
words
but you
and
know
I
what?
use other words that people use.
You know what though? I mean, there'll be times where I use a word, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta write that down and remember that. There's just
Yeah.
something about, even though it does come from you, there are times you gotta write it down just to remember it.
Yeah. I have little pieces of paper all the time. What do you think about people that, because you talked about LinkedIn, that cold DM all the time? I see that more and more, and people connecting with me, and I know they're going to sell me. I know that's the only reason they're connecting with me.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't researched that enough in LinkedIn about how to maybe set your settings so you can't get stuff like that. I don't know why it's picked up more and more. Franchise stuff. People see that I have a podcast, so they're trying to sell me on podcast stuff. But I have a running joke with a friend of mine, a very close friend, and we're both on LinkedIn. And if somebody says hi on LinkedIn and wants to connect, I'll say to her, okay, how long before this person, boom, starts selling me? Now they're getting just not even bold, but they're just saying, I'm just going to jump straight to the point. I'm not
There's
going to BS you. I don't know. It's just
they're
amazing.
starting there. I think
Nothing,
it's terrible.
nothing comes out of it. I mean, I just, as soon as they try to sell me something, I just, I block them or whatever, just because I think there's a way to do it, but you got to be a little courteous. You got to build a little bit of a relationship. It's not going to be the same as knowing somebody
Agreed.
from your network, but just jumping into the selling, it's just a turn off. They all sound the same.
Yeah. Agreed. If I look at someone, and that's how I found a lot of our co-authors in our book. I read through profiles and I asked for a conversation, and I told them exactly what I read that made me think that they may be a good fit. Not all of them were. Like sometimes I talk to people and like, I don't think you're a good fit just yet, but I think when you're very, very genuine in your approach, that's that's when it works, when you're doing it for the right reasons, not to get something. I think that's the
Yeah,
hardest
and
thing
there
for
and
people to
there's
understand.
even when you're in person, you can tell when somebody is looking at you eye to eye, and when they're almost like looking around you, like, or trying to rush through the conversation because they want to just kind of get to that next mark, if you will.
Absolutely.
So it's being human. I mean, I think that's what's missing in the world is just that real connection. You don't have to spend all day on it. You don't have to spend 45 minutes with each person. You can make comments, you can use certain words, you can gesture your body in certain ways to show that you're authentic in a few minutes. I mean, just looking someone in the eye, just using their name, making them feel seen. So this doesn't have to take a very long time because I think people are just so reactive. We're just on auto cruise control, just trying to get to that next thing that when we stop, look someone in the eye and just have a great conversation with somebody, that's like even that, something that used to be common ages ago, for me is high caliber because you're making that person feel seen and understood.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so much more necessary today since COVID that we have genuine relationships with people. And I think during COVID, a lot of people were just selling through. There was so much open networking that people were just selling and selling and selling and selling and selling that people are tired of it. So they're picking it. They're choosing very carefully where they're networking, where they're spending their time. I'm the same way. I pick
Yeah,
networks very, very carefully. I try them one or two times. If I feel I'm being sold to, that's not my network. I'll go to the next one until I
absolutely.
feel, because I know I need a very soulful resonance. What I say, deliberate creators, right? I'm an introvert. I
Yeah.
network way differently. I know I attract people way differently, and that's okay. That's who I am. Um,
Yeah, I love that I found your organization because it shaped what I've been feeling and sensing for a long time, that I need that kind of environment, that kind of network to do different kind of business. I think we're all out there really to change the world for the better. And I mean, we're
yeah,
dealing in a toxic environment that's built up over the last decade, so much disconnection that we can make the difference little by little. We don't have to tackle it. I think so many people think I'm not going to try a little because it's just going to take too much, but every little interaction is a ripple effect into your community. You can set the example. I think I stand by it. Like leadership is not so much in what's said or told or guided, but what people see, the example that they set.
yeah. And the only other thing, if anyone else has a question, feel free to talk. I'm just filling the space. Um, but because I also love this subject, because I think people miss this part. And conversation and how you connect is so important to every single one of our businesses. Every single one of us. We can't do it without a network. Um, but I don't know if you said this directly, but that's what I wrote down. I wrote, be open to opportunity. Because so many times when people are stabbing you with your business card, they're not really open to opportunity because they don't know who you are. They don't know who you know. They don't know anything about you. And they're already deciding in their head, that's not my client. I can't sell to them. And I see a lot of
Yeah.
people do that, right? They're already saying, that's not my client. I don't need to know them, whatever that is. But you don't know who someone knows, and you don't know the
Yeah.
opportunity that can cross
Yeah.
your path. And you stop yourself immediately from receiving whatever that person has in your life. You don't know. Maybe it's not a sale. Maybe it's your next best friend. Maybe it's your next spouse. Like, you don't know what that person has to offer. So by immediately judging them, you're losing out.
Such a great point. I gave that that example of the Mitros, Heidi and her partner Mike.
Yes. Yep.
Um, she's just like, you and Mike need to meet each other. Um, and yeah, we talked for 45 minutes, 50 minutes. We're in different areas. He does some leadership work in higher ed. I've never been in that space. We'll see if I can go speak to his students and whatnot. But aside from that, at the very end, I did put it like that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what she wanted us to. I don't know that she had an end result that she wanted, but
Yeah.
this was an awesome conversation. And we were very open. The awesome part about Heidi was that we talked in that podcast conversation about men's vulnerability and what men feel they need to be. And I admitted how tough it is to be a man, and that sounds ridiculous. But, as a father, I have my own issues, my own challenges, and I have no problem saying that I feel weak sometimes or vulnerable. And she saw that and she put me in touch with him. And It's just good to have great conversations. So even if you don't have a business end result, you never know who you're going to meet by pursuing great conversations and saying yes from a trusted source. So the people that referred me to other great people for conversations, I trusted them. They trusted me. I'm
Hmm.
not saying say yes to everybody, especially somebody that's slamming your inbox with franchise inquiries and all that bullshit. But even if it's not for your business, there are people out there. You just don't know. It's a
Yeah.
game of numbers. Get out there. Um, do you know where you're supposed to be? Do you feel right? Do you feel like something's missing? Get out there safely, do your due diligence, but explore who's out there. What's great is that we live in this virtual world where you don't have to go out somewhere to meet somebody. I've talked to countless people that I've met in discussions like this where they say, hey, I like what you said, even as an audience member, let's grab coffee. You never know what's going to come out of it. I took a lesson from my friend Dan Blanchard, where he's just like, I just always say yes, reasonably and fairly and safely. But yes, saying yes to those experiences, and everybody's going to have their own comfort level, but see what's out there. There
I
sounds
love that.
cliche, but the world really is your oyster. It
Yeah.
really is yours to design. What do you want to do with it?
Yeah. And that everything crosses your path for a reason. I am such a big believer in that. And sometimes I can say to myself, I don't know what the reason is, but I know that this happened for a reason. So everyone that you're networking with, everyone that shows up at a masterclass, everyone that shows up at any one of your there's a reason why every single person is there. So don't prejudge it because you don't know. The universe
What's
works in
great
mysterious ways.
Yeah. What's great about my experience lately is that I have general goals, general directions that I want to go in, high value, very worthy, aligned to my values is what I mean. But I don't put the weight on the goal anymore. When life was
Mm,
stressful for me is because that's what I need, that over there, that specific goal. And then it's kind of like just keeping my eye on that goal and just letting everything go by. Where I think during the pandemic, it slowed everybody down. And I realized that in the moment, that is what's more important than the goal down the road. For me, the fact that I'm moving in the right direction, talking to valuable people like the people in this conversation right now, taking you up on your offer to speak to this group. This is fucking amazing. This is amazing energy. These are great people out here that are trying to make a difference in their work. That's amazing. And this is one more, for lack of a better word, notch in my legacy. Like I spoke to this amazing group that's trying to do amazing things, and it has nothing to do with my goal in the future. I'm creating, I've gotten more curious and I've been more intentional. And you can say it's being present, you can say it's being mindful, but I'm more appreciative and I seek more moments to build like this than something far off in the future. I want to make every day count with these kind of moments.
yeah.
God, that
Uh,
sounded so Titanic.
Yeah,
Make it
no, you know
count
what
or whatever.
I thought of how you and I met, but I thought of um the interesting chain just to give an example of how things work in life if you're open to opportunity, right? So, um Christy Sullivan, I don't know if you're still on.
Mhm.
She's a part of our group. Christy, I don't remember how you and I met, but I'm sure we were introduced through someone. She introduced me to Pratty Kaufman. Pratty
Mhm.
Kaufman introduced me to you. You
Mhm.
got to be in our book. You met Heidi Metro. Heidi Metro introduced you to her partner that might lead you to a next great opportunity in
Yeah.
leadership.
And the thing is, I don't do business with Christy. I don't do business with Prati. I don't do business with you. I don't do business with Heidi. I don't do business with Mike, but all of you
Right.
have made me a better person.
Oh, she just said Christy Sullivan. Amy Floyo introduced me to Camille. And I forget how I met Amy, but
And that's the funny thing is, most of the time when I connect with people about possibly being on my podcast, um, from when I get the introduction to when we talk first time by phone, each of us says, okay, I have to think back to see who introduced me and then where I can, like, it can be 6 degrees of separation, but you said yes to something with each of those people, and some of them were business related, some of them weren't, but you you got benefit from all those connections. So from
Yeah.
Christy all the way to Mike Mitro, I didn't lose anything. I gained valuable insight. I picked up on all your different industries, all your different drives, and I absorb all that. So even though there wasn't a business connection between any of those 6 or 7 connections, I'm a better person having known and explored with each of
Absolutely.
those degrees.
Yeah.
And that's what that platinum networking is about, is just kind of realizing life, business, whatever it is, entrepreneurship, you're learning, it's all a master class based on all these great connections that are out there.
Yeah. And I want to also mention it's really important to follow up. So just because you made a connection, letting that drop is
Mm,
not good. Like I follow up with a lot of people a lot of times.
mhm.
If I haven't seen them for a while, I haven't talked. Now I have
Yes,
thousands of people
absolutely.
that run through my network.
Checking
But
in, even when it's not tied to business, it's like, how are you doing? How's everything going?
yeah, yeah. Which I do all the time because I just like to catch up with people. I like to know the deeper person,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
absolutely.
John, I have absolutely loved this conversation. You had a masterful presentation, and I so appreciate your time. Before we
Anytime,
let John
anytime.
go, does anyone have any questions, any thoughts, any comments? Everyone's been kind of quiet, but I think it was wonderful, and everyone got a lot from it.
I hope so.
Well,
Yeah,
I
no,
just want to comment quickly, John. I really enjoy all your presentation. I can see your evolution. I've been through similar thing. So we
Appreciate that.
do need to really focus on our self-empowerment and all the process, right? And pandemic, a lot of people say that is such a great gift. According to myself, yeah, it is a great gift. If we
Mhm.
see them as a gift, that's a gift. We see it as stress, it's a stress, right? So I just want to congratulate you to lead us and connect with all the people you need to connect in this route. And then my question is, if you ever need a guest, let me know. I would love to share my stories too.
Absolutely. I'm wrapping up this season, but anybody that's on here, please don't hesitate to connect on LinkedIn. Just reach out. Even for a conversation. Like I said, even if something doesn't come out of it, just that time, how much you grow, how much you can take away from someone. But absolutely, please reach out.
All right, I will do that. Thank you.
And thank you for your words. That really anytime somebody gives me a compliment like that, that really does, I want to thank them because it's motivating to hear somebody say that they've seen your evolution, that they appreciate your work, so that, even if one person sees your value, it's amazing hopefully what you take away and collect all these great people just sharing their insights and appreciation of your work. So I thank you so much.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. I know
So
we're coming up on, go ahead.
just want to say thank you, and we can actually feel your energy. You're calm and strong at the same time. So I do appreciate your time and being here with us.
I guess you're lucky you're on this presentation because the reason I'm so quiet is that my 15-month-old is sleeping in the next room. She went down for her nap. Usually I'm more energetic than this.
So perfect timing then, that too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I ask what that sign about sarcasm says behind you? Like, I can't quite read it.
I was trying to
No.
read that too.
Sarcasm is just one service that I offer.
Yes.
You know,
Thank you.
and I'm like, for presentations, do I blur the background? It's like, you know what? I mean, this is me kind
It's
of thing.
perfect.
So you gotta stay true to who you are.
Yep. I do the
Yep.
same.
And I saw somebody commented on this book. Yeah, highly recommend it for any creative types in this group. Or just
Probably all creatives. What's this book? The Creative Art, A Way
it's
of
by
Being. I don't know
Rick
that book.
Rubin, who's the producer. I mean, he brought like LL Cool J, the Beastie Boys, um, a lot of rap acts, Red Hot Chili Peppers. He just goes through not so much the creative process of music, but just if you're a creator, if you're a writer, if you're a painter. Um, I love reading creative. I'm going to be interviewing somebody on Big Magic by the author of, help me out here, with the Julia Roberts movie.
It's Elizabeth Gilbert, and
Thank you
it's
so much.
Eat, Pray, and Love.
Yes, thank
Oh,
you.
my
So
favorite.
she wrote a book on her creativity as an author. He writes this as a music producer, different language, great insights on both of them. So if you're any kind of creative, whether writer, producer, movie, whatever it may be, check this book out. Highly recommend it. Once you do, please let me know what you thought. Oop, right there. Rick
Great.
Rubin, The Creative Act, A Way of Being.
Wow, wonderful. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, John, for a wonderful
Anytime,
presentation. Thank you, all
anytime.
of you guys, for joining us today. Our next masterclass, just so you know, September 28th. It's Know Your Money, Grow Your Business, setting your business up for financial success. And that is with Sarah Finn. She is a financial and certified health coach and retired CPA. So she knows a lot about business and of the creative businesses. So hopefully we'll see everyone again on September 28th. All right. I want to thank everyone. Bye, John. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for being here.
Take care.
you.